My sister stood at the podium in her immaculate dress uniform, her voice sharp and cold as she delivered the eulogy for our father. She looked right past me, straight into the sea of polished boots and solemn salutes, and said the words that would split me from our family forever. I regret to inform you that my sister, Emily Harper, will not be joining us today. She is not welcome. She's a disgrace to the Harper name. A coward. A traitor to the flag we both once swore to protect. The air turned to stone around me. My presence was erased before it was ever acknowledged. She didn't think I would come. She thought she had won. But she hadn't counted on the sound that ripped through the silence moments later, a black hawk descending behind the cemetery, its blades thundering overhead like judgment itself. She didn't expect me to step out, flanked by federal agents. In full honors, holding the evidence that would unravel her lies in front of everyone she thought would protect her. As she stepped down from the podium, I took her place. I unfolded the papers and read them aloud. Declassified files. Transaction. Logs. Satellite access reports. Proof. My sister, Colonel Sarah Harper, was a paid informant. A traitor. She'd sold national secrets for millions, stashed across a web of offshore accounts. She didn't even argue. She collapsed, right there beside our father's casket, as restraints closed around her wrists. While they carried her away, I stood at attention, looking down at the man who gave me my name. I whispered, "I'm here, Dad." I had come to clear our name. They tried to erase me. But I came back to tell the truth. The day before all of that, I'd sat in our childhood dining room, surrounded by walls that used to echo with laughter and pancake syrup on Sunday mornings. Now it smelled like rosemary, old leather, and grief. My mother sat across the table, stone-faced, as if I were a stranger. She hadn't said more than 10 words since I walked in the door. Not even when Sarah raised her glass and declared I was filth. "You don't belong at his funeral," Sarah said. "You're a stain on this family." No one said a word. Not a protest. Not a glance of discomfort. My mother didn't even blink. I swallowed the rising bile and said nothing. My heart had frozen 4 years ago, when my life was destroyed. Back then, I had been an operations officer overseeing a critical systems upgrade to the Aegis satellite array. During a test, a breach occurred. Malware. Just long enough to disrupt the East Coast's missile tracking protocols. No casualties, but enough chaos to make the Boston breach front-page news. They needed someone to blame. And I was the convenient name. My clearance was revoked. I was reassigned. Quietly buried. The truth? A closed-door Pentagon review cleared me. But that verdict never saw daylight. And the first signature on my reassignment paperwork? Sarah's. Now here I was, accused all over again, only this time to my face. When I stood to leave, I found a note tucked into my coat pocket. I hadn't seen anyone near me. It read, "Don't trust your sister. Your mistake was being too silent." Back in Norfolk, my apartment was a shoebox. A cot. A secure laptop. A sidearm under the pillow. And a carved wooden box beneath the bed, marked with my father's insignia. I hadn't spoken to anyone from my old unit in years. But I hadn't stopped working either. Because despite what the record said, I was still active. Deep under black classification. I was part of Shadow Pulse, a ghost division within U.S. intelligence. Our job? Expose internal threats, track breaches, eliminate risks. That night, I opened a cold storage server containing every byte from the Boston incident. I reviewed logs, packet captures, keystrokes. And there it was, something I'd missed. The encryption signature that got me blamed. It looked like mine. But it wasn't. The curve of the hash string, the cadence of delay, it belonged to someone else. It was familiar. Sarah's encryption signature. From an experimental sandbox I worked on in 2017. She'd cloned my style. Deliberately. I dove deeper, pulling access logs from Aegis 4.0, the upgrade Sarah oversaw. What I found chilled me. She was still in the system, using outdated ciphers to push requests through the satellite coordination layer. The IP traced back to her DC office, secure, restricted. She'd never left. She was hiding in plain sight. I needed proof. Not just suspicion. So I created bait. A 20-page fake report buried with a stealth tracer, an Echoline worm that would activate only when opened on a secure government terminal. I signed it as Dr. Evelyn Blake, a fake analyst with a digital identity I'd crafted years ago. I routed it internally, and by noon, it was on Sarah's desk. 3 hours later, my terminal lit up. She'd opened it. But worse, my system caught a mirrored file transfer. The entire document was being sent to a server in Dubai. Keytech. A shell company flagged for laundering encrypted data to hostile actors. My sister wasn't just accessing sensitive data. She was transmitting it. That night, a second message came. A photo. My father and me, Fort Benning, my first day of officer training. His hand on my shoulder, my smile bright. On the back, scrawled. In ink, if he were alive today, would he believe you or your sister? There was no turning back. I called Michael Chen. Former unit member. One of the few who hadn't abandoned me. He worked on a remote Alaskan base, buried under snow and silence. When he answered, he said I sounded like I'd seen a ghost. I told him I was chasing one. He helped me scan the data trail from Sarah's office. Proxy layers through Qatar, the Netherlands, then Dubai. The endpoint? Kane Tech Holdings. I called Tara Gwen next. Our myth. Shadow Pulse's quiet oracle. I gave her one task, follow the money. 36 hours later, she called me. Shaken. There's money, she said. Too much of it. Offshore transfers. Crypto. Shell accounts. Over $4.8 million traced to a Cayman account under S. Harper. And one recurring name across. The trail, Eclipse Systems Incorporated. Not a contractor. Not even listed. A ghost. A remnant from covert weapons programs supposedly shut down 20 years ago. I dug back into the bait file Sarah accessed. I found a hidden string, a failsafe activation key buried in code. It would override the Aegis satellites. Timestamped. Saturday. 9 a.m. The exact time of our father's funeral. I couldn't breathe. I opened the audio file intercepted from Sarah's office. Her voice, cold, precise. Everything ends Saturday morning. She won't show. Then another voice, lower, commanding. And if she does, she won't leave the cemetery alive. I encrypted the file and sent copies to Michael and a dead drop backup. I didn't have time for permission. Only proof. I went back to a persona I hadn't worn in years, Anna Blake. War correspondent. Cybersecurity analyst. A ghost I'd built into Flesh Online, socials, credentials, even published essays I'd ghostwritten myself. I filed a press request to interview Sarah for a piece on female leadership in post-Desert Shield military structures. Of course, she agreed. The meeting was set for 3 p.m. in her DC office. The moment I walked in, I had to remind myself to breathe. Her space was clinical. Powerful. Her uniform pristine. Lipstick a touch too bold, but perfectly balanced by the air of command she wore like a second skin. She welcomed me politely. I nodded. We began with safe questions, quotas, recruitment, leadership theory. Then I shifted gears. Colonel, have you noticed increased foreign probing into our satellite networks lately? A flicker. One blink. I'm not at liberty to discuss classified operations. Hypothetically, if a non-state actor targeted our defense systems, how would we detect it? She leaned back. Hypotheticals are dangerous, Ms. Blake. So are false alarms, I said. She didn't flinch. But when I mentioned Dubai, legacy systems, old cipher chains, something flickered. A tightening behind her eyes. Not fear. Recognition. Before I left, I placed a Mont Blanc pen on her desk. A token of thanks, I said. Writers depend on good pens. She accepted it with a nod. The pen wasn't just a gift. It was a frequency-hopping mic that transmitted only when exposed to a human voice. Whisper to conversation. Just enough to pick up the truth. I left, drove 3 hours. Home, and waited. That night, the transmission came through. Static. Footsteps. Office chatter. Then her voice, she didn't suspect a thing. Neither did Sarah. But the truth was already moving. Faster than she could stop it. The cover was solid. We stay on schedule. There was a pause. A male voice responded, flat, unhurried. She made contact with the old unit. She's stirring dust. Let her, Sarah replied. She's got no platform, no clearance. No. One believes her. When it's done, she disappears. No body, no story. Then came the part that stopped me cold. Confirm extraction protocol with the director, the man said. Sarah answered without hesitation. Already done. He signed off yesterday. The director. Not Kane. Not some offshore operative. Not a fixer for hire. Someone inside. Someone. High enough to approve protocol on domestic soil. High enough to erase agents. High enough to kill. I cross-referenced the signal logs from Sarah's phone. 2 calls made that afternoon. One to a Dubai-based relay server. The other, far more chilling, to a satellite phone tagged with restricted access codes. The location? Pentagon. 5th floor. This wasn't a family betrayal anymore. This was a sanctioned erasure. And Sarah? She was just one of its architects. Tara's voice cut through my sleep like a blade. Our systems have been breached. They know we're watching Sarah. I sat up, heart pounding so hard it blurred my vision. I didn't need more detail. I knew this moment would come. Just not this soon. I powered down every system in the apartment, yanked the hard drives from their docks, crushed 2 flash backups, and slammed shut every node on my secure rig. My go bag had been packed for months, waiting for this exact breach. I grabbed it and left. But I was already too late. Tara had left the safe house 20 minutes earlier in an unmarked sedan. She was heading to a rendezvous near Quantico, a location Michael had scouted weeks ago. As she approached the light at an intersection, a white cargo truck barreled in from behind, no warning, no brake lights, and slammed into her at full speed. Michael arrived before I did. The crash site was already sealed. Police lines. Unmarked agents. A field of glass sparkling like bone. Underneath the driver's seat, they found a listening device, military grade, tuned to a shadow pulse frequency. They knew who she was, what she drove, where she was going. Tara had broken ribs, a cranial fracture, internal bleeding. She was airlifted to a military hospital and put into a medically induced coma. No one could say if she'd survive. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I stood outside her hospital room, fists clenched, jaw locked, eyes dry. Michael didn't ask questions. He just stood beside me and nodded. He knew what it cost to wear the uniform no one could ever see. When I got back to Norfolk, my apartment was exactly as I'd left it. Alarm armed. Door locked. Lights off. But something in the air felt wrong. There, on the kitchen table, was a white envelope. No postage. No seal. Just my name printed in all caps. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Termination of assignment. Defense Intelligence Agency. Effective immediately. Subject, Emily Harper. Reason, conduct unbecoming. And beneath that, a handwritten line in ink I recognized: you were never fit to wear the flag. Sarah. I folded the letter and dropped it into the trash. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't hitch. I walked to the floor safe, opened it, and took everything left: a Glock 43, my level 5 clearance badge, and the USB drive that contained everything, every log, every transfer, every intercepted signal, every truth. I accessed my private server, a cold system buried under layers of encryption I'd built after Boston. The pen transmitter I left in Sarah's office had recorded one final data burst. A single outbound string. Adaptive packet masking. Eclipse tag. File name, Sazegov 015 DC. I'd seen that string before. 12 years ago, during training, I was granted access to a case study on a defunct CIA project. It was a buried contingency protocol designed during the Cold War, a failsafe for strategic control under extreme compromise. Called Eclipse. They said it had been dismantled. Shut down. Its leaders arrested or vanished. They lied. Eclipse didn't die. It went dark. I picked up the encrypted satellite phone I'd promised never to use unless I was ready to burn every bridge. I dialed the only person I trusted. Lydia Brooks. My father's former strategic advisor. A war hawk with the mind of a chess grandmaster and the moral compass of a blade. Emily, she said the moment she picked up. I found something. I told her. So did I, she replied. I want to expose her at the funeral, I said. In front of everyone. Silence. Then the funeral becomes the tribunal. That night, I pulled an old photo from my bag. Me and my father, OCS graduation day. His hand on my shoulder. My uniform still stiff from ceremony. I tucked it into my breast pocket. I'm coming, Dad, I whispered. Even if it's in handcuffs or by helicopter. I will stand beside you. And she will too, even if it's in chains. The air in Arlington was heavy that morning. Humid, tense, like the whole sky was waiting to break. When my mother opened the door, she looked fragile. Not weak. Just used up. Like a porcelain vase left out in too many winters. I thought you weren't coming, she said. I needed to see him one more time. She led me in. The living room was untouched. We used to argue here about curfews. Grades. Now it held silence and shadows. She brought out a wooden box. Smooth, old. The initials JH carved on the bottom. He kept this locked, she said. I found it in the attic 2 nights ago. Inside, a leather journal, a manila folder stamped command eyes only, a sealed envelope with my name on it. The journal was tactical. My father's handwriting, clipped and blunt. But toward the end, it changed. Words broke. Doubts bled through. Mentions of Sarah. Suspicious deposits. Unverified bonuses. Names. Numbers. He had started investigating her. The folder held photos. Documents. Financial ledgers. One name stopped me cold. Robert Vaughn. Former chief of counterintelligence. Vanished in 2013. Presumed dead in Romania. But my father had written, no proof of death. Body never recovered. Eclipse suspected. My hands went numb. I opened the envelope last. Just one page. If you're reading this, I failed to stop her. But you, Emily, are not like her. You never were. I couldn't protect you. But maybe now, you'll understand why I distanced myself. I was afraid. Not of you. Of the machine we built. My mother sat still. I knew about the money, she said. I confronted Sarah. She said it was a classified bonus. I didn't believe her. Why didn't you say anything? Because I was afraid of losing both of you. I didn't yell. Didn't break. I just stood and said, I believe you. But sorry won't stop what's coming. I left. And noticed the SUV 2 cars back. Unmarked. Persistent. I diverted, cut through back streets, and vanished into a gas station alley. When I checked my phone, there was a message. No number. You opened the box. Good. Now get ready to die for it. I drove straight to Montana. Van's coordinates were etched into my memory. The cabin stood alone, surrounded by pine and silence. He opened the door like he'd been expecting me. You're John's girl, he said. But you've got more spine than he ever did. We sat near the fireplace, drinking coffee thick enough to chew. The walls were covered in maps, notes, satellite paths. He told me everything. Eclipse had been real. A joint black op born in Cold War chaos. When it was shut down, it went private. Silent. But not dead. Sarah had been groomed. Her career shaped. Her placement at the head of Black Echo was no accident. He gave me a solid-state drive. Inside, launch codes, access protocols, a command override key embedded in Aegis 7, set to activate in 36 hours. The signatures were authenticated by a former Deputy National Security Advisor, now a frontrunner for Secretary of Defense. As we discussed next steps, something shifted. A flick in the air. Van's eyes narrowed. Down, he shouted. A shot shattered the window. I rolled. Drew. Splinters rained down. Van reached for a rifle, too slow. The second shot caught him in the side. I dragged him into a hidden tunnel. The old man bled the whole way, groaning, fading, but alive. We reached Michael's SUV just as snow began to fall. By dawn, we were in Denver. I called Lydia. Sent her the files. She called back. Voice sharp. Enough, she said. The funeral becomes the battlefield. It's yours now. And I was ready.